There's a moment that quietly separates people into two groups. Someone mentions a party, a dinner, a weekend plan. One group feels a spark, the other feels a pause. And that pause isn't sadness, it isn't fear, it isn't social anxiety. It's clarity, a realization that being alone sounds better. For a long time, psychology treated that instinct like a warning sign. But recent research suggests something very different. Some people aren't retreating from life, they're designed to process it internally. And scientists are finally saying it out loud. Let's clear something up first. Loneliness hurts. Solitude doesn't. Loneliness is the absence of connection you want. Solitude is the presence of yourself, by choice. For a long time, psychology grouped everyone who preferred being alone into one uneasy bucket. Introverted, withdrawn, socially deficient. And the worst label of all, antisocial. As if enjoying your own company meant you were secretly rejecting humanity. But that assumption was flawed, because it never asked why someone chooses solitude. In the mid-2000s, researchers began separating things that had been wrongly fused together. They asked a deceptively simple question. What if some people aren't avoiding others? What if they're genuinely satisfied alone? They gave this trait a name, unsociability, not fear-based avoidance, not hostility toward people, not trauma-driven isolation, just a calm, voluntary preference for low stimulation and internal space. And when they studied these individuals, something surprising emerged. They weren't struggling. They weren't broken. They were functioning exceptionally well, emotionally stable, self-directed, often deeply creative. Which led to a more interesting question. What's different inside their brains? Here's where it gets fascinating. People who thrive in solitude don't lack reward responses. They reach them faster. Their dopamine systems are more sensitive. While some people need constant interaction, noise, and novelty to feel engaged, solitude-oriented minds reach their optimal state with far less input. Think of it like sound volume. Some brains need the speakers at full blast. Others hear everything clearly at half volume. And when stimulation exceeds that threshold, it becomes draining instead of energizing. This is why solitude doesn't feel empty to them. It feels precise. When someone who enjoys solitude is alone, they aren't mentally idle. Their prefrontal cortex, the center for reflection, synthesis, and complex thought, becomes more active. This is where ideas recombine, meaning gets processed, identity strengthens. That's why some of humanity's most original work didn't emerge from crowds. It came from quiet rooms, long walks, uninterrupted thinking. Solitude is where the mind stops reacting and starts creating. History quietly supports this. Not because isolation creates brilliance, but because depth requires space. Many great thinkers intentionally engineered solitude, private rooms, silent routines, deliberate withdrawal. Not out of fear of people, but out of respect for thought. Solitude gave them room to hear themselves think. That pattern isn't coincidence. It's neurological compatibility. But here's the part most videos skip, and it matters. There's a critical difference between choosing solitude and hiding inside it. Healthy solitude comes from fullness. Unhealthy isolation comes from protection. Ask yourself honestly, are you alone because it helps you think, reset, and create, or because it feels safer than being seen? Neither answer makes you weak, but confusing the two can keep you stuck. True solitude says, I could connect if I wanted to. Avoidance says, I don't feel able to. That distinction changes everything. Here's the paradox. People who are comfortable alone often show up better with others. Why? Because they aren't looking for someone to complete them. They aren't draining relationships for validation or identity. They've already met their own emotional baseline. So when they connect, it's intentional, not desperate. Choice replaces need, and that creates healthier bonds. Some cultures understand this better than others. In certain societies, solo experiences aren't treated like social failures. Eating alone isn't awkward. Being alone isn't suspicious. Enjoying yourself solo isn't something to explain. Meanwhile, elsewhere, solitude still triggers questions. What's wrong? Why are you alone? Who hurt you? As if being comfortable with yourself requires justification. It doesn't. If solitude restores you, if quiet sharpens your mind, if being alone feels like clarity, not collapse, you don't need to apologize for that. Your nervous system isn't malfunctioning. It's calibrated differently. But always stay honest with yourself. Solitude should feel like expansion, not retreat. A choice, not a shield. So the next time someone questions why you canceled plans, or why you prefer quiet weekends, or why you're comfortable alone, you could explain neuroscience. You could cite psychology. Or you could simply say, because I enjoy my own company. That answer is more powerful than it sounds. And for the right people, it needs no explanation at all. If this felt personal, it's not a coincidence. The next videos break down how your mind recharges and why certain routines feel non-negotiable to you. You're not alone in this, even when you choose to be. And if you want more conversations like this, subscribe. I'll see you there.